into what we're going to explore together today. But before I start this sermon, or this lecture, I must admit that one of the main reasons I agreed to cover the Scorpio is because my wife, actually, shared this before. My wife actually has 5 planets in Scorpio, all in the 10th house. And that's actually 427 astrodynes of Scorpio energy. So spiritual growth is a nice benefit of what I'm learning today, but mainly it's just to defend myself from that energy. So that's why I wanted to become a Scorpio expert. But seriously, what Mark covered is exactly what we're going to talk about today: desire, transformation, and the unfolding of the spiritual journey. And that is the great truth we're here to explore. How do we transform the base desires of Scorpio that bind us to the material world into the wings that lift us towards the height of spiritual wisdom? So as we continue to unveil the mysteries of Scorpio, I'd like for you to ask yourself, if you chase only the fleeting things of this world, what will remain when those things are gone? For the core of this grace transformation we are called to lies the alchemy of desire, the sacred work of transmitting base cravings into the gold of the soul, building an astral and spiritual body. This is the reason we walk in the human form. So in order to do this, first we have to grasp Scorpio's guiding phrase of "I desire." Then we will explore the occult science that's related to Scorpio, the unseen, or the imponderable forces. Then once we understand this force, or begin to understand this force, we'll learn how it becomes a tool in our personal magical workings, how it empowers us to craft both inner and outer changes to become creators in the great alchemical process of life. Finally, we'll turn to the greatest use of desire, fulfilling our cosmic mission. Each of us is called to shed as much light as possible in this world, to rise in consciousness, and to leave behind a legacy of wisdom, compassion, and illumination. This is our sacred duty. This is our cosmic job. It is through Scorpio that we learn to will desire in the service of this divine mission. So as Mark talked about, we don't necessarily refer to Scorpio in many cases as a scorpion. We refer to it as the eagle when we talk about the cardinal sort of desire, or the cardinal signs. So let's return to the question that I mentioned at the beginning. If all our desires are spent on earthly rewards, what happens to the soul when the body no longer exists? Desire at its core is a force of nature. It's universal and unrelenting. Like the ancient scorpion driven by base needs and instincts, we all begin our journey motivated by simple earthly desires. Yet when we learn to lift these desires, to transmute them into something higher, something wondrous occurs. That's when the scorpion undergoes its sacred metamorphosis, becoming the eagle, soaring high above the earth with the broad, enlightened vision of the spirit. Now, to understand fully the energy of Scorpio, we must turn to Zane's teaching on the metaphysical structure of nature and the trifold nature of the soul. The ego, symbolized by the sun, is that divine spark within us, our connection to the higher realms, the source of all life. It is the eternal force that drives us towards our spiritual purpose. The body, symbolized by the earth, is only a temporary vessel, shaped by earthly desires and necessary for our journey in the material world. But finally, the soul, represented by the moon, is a seat of our emotions, thoughts, and moods. It encompasses both the conscious and the subconscious aspects of our being. But what does this all matter? How does this interplay work in practice? A divine spark of God joins itself to a physical form, and through this union, consciousness arises. And with sufficient sensitivity, we can attune ourselves to this consciousness, all the way down to the mineral level of life, of existence. Each object, each form contains within it the consciousness. As the ego journeys through the forms, it experiences more and more the universe, growing in awareness and capability with each step. From the chemical consciousness of minerals, to the vegetative consciousness of plants, to the psychic consciousness, to the simple consciousness, and ultimately to self-consciousness, the ego experiences. In its highest form, it develops a soul. This soul, our astral body, is combined of our thoughts, emotions, mental states, and dominant moods. And it is this soul that we carry forward into the next life. And it is these desires embedded within this soul that will either imprison us or liberate us in the astral realms. One of Scorpio's core teachings is, like Mark said, the power of creation. While it's often linked to reproduction, reproduction transcends the physical. It encompasses the birth of new ideas, the sparks of creativity, and the intellectual offspring of the mind. When we direct our desires toward creation, we become the architects of something new in the world. But like Mark said, this created energy holds a destructive potential. Think for a moment of all the lives derailed by unchecked desires. When left unbridled, desire becomes a force of ruin, manifested as addiction, lust, greed, or the endless pursuit of power. Scorpio teaches us that we can redirect these habitual pathways our desires follow, channeling the higher aims. This is actually reflected in Scorpio's two attributes. Resourcefulness is the positive, whereas troublesomeness is the negative. When desire is ignited, when it burns with a purpose, there is nothing that can stand in its way. You will call upon every resource to see it through. In the realm of neuroscience, this is known simply as activation energy, the effort it takes to motivate oneself to action. And when desire is focused, it provides a wellspring of energy to overcome obstacles. But when desire becomes rampant, uncontrolled, or fixated on unworthy aims, it becomes a troublesome force. It consumes one's life, leaving destruction in its wake. One of the most sobering examples of unchecked desires can be found in the social consequences of frustrated or misdirected energies. Studies show that when large number of young people in society are deprived of meaningful outlets, whether it is sex, productive work, or creative expression, they become volatile, and they'll do anything to obtain those ends. In this Journal of Economic Behavior and Organization, researchers found that regions with high levels of income inequality and gender imbalance, meaning more of one gender than the other, saw a significant rise in violent crime and unrest. The underlying cause was an unmet drive for both social and personal fulfillment. Scorpio's lesson here is clear. Our desires, whether for material or personal satisfaction, fuel our actions. If these desires are not harmonized with spiritual or creative aims, they lead to chaos, both within and without. I'd like to ask yourself, what habitual desires are guiding your action? Neuroscience, once again, reinforces what Zane spoke about regarding habits. Habits, once formed, begin to control us. The brain seeks efficiency, and so it carves pathways of least resistance. But just as we can form destructive habits, we can also rewire our neural circuits towards new positive aims. So how can you begin to redirect those forces towards something that fosters growth, creativity, and spiritual fulfillment? Let us delve into something more mysterious now, imponderable forces. This aspect of the occult sciences, particularly tied to Scorpio, opens a gateway into the hidden energies that shape the very reality we experience. In course 4, Ancient Masonry, which aligns with Scorpio, it is of course related to Scorpio, we learned that ceremonial magic is not about the outward symbols, the wands, the circles, the rituals. No, these are just tools to help induce the necessary emotions, direct our thoughts towards a singular purpose. At the heart of it, it is all intention, the focused will that bends reality towards the desired outcome. And without the force of desire, this art is impotent. For Scorpio's energy, the desire force that ignites the process of transformation. Scorpio teaches us we must harness the polarity of life. The universe itself is structured upon the interactions of opposites. The positive always seeks union with the negative, the active with the receptive. As Zane so eloquently explains in Course 4, the studious mind cannot fail to perceive all nature to be divided in attributes, the one positive, the one negative, the one active, the other receptive. Polarity, or sex, is the one great law of the universe. This teaching reminds us that it's the proper use of desire, it's wise direction that allows us to become more than just mere automatons, blindly driven by the instincts and desires handed to us by the world. Instead, through conscious mastery, we can use these same desires to fuel our transformation into enlightened beings, those who consciously choose their path and manifest their will. This is a journey from follower to adept, from one who is swept along by the forces to one who masters this. How do we cultivate this? The answer lies in directed thinking, induced emotion, and invincible will, and in the mastery of desire. Modern neuroscience offers us insights that align with these ancient teachings. When we direct our focus and attention, our brains literally begin to rewire itself. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by following new neural connections, shows that we are not fixed in our desires. Studies have demonstrated that by intentional thinking, combined with emotionally charged repetition, we actually create new neural pathways, altering the way we act and respond. In one study published in Nature's Neuroscience, researchers found that focused mental training over time led to observable changes in the brain structure, enhancing self-regulation and emotional resilience. This, in essence, is the brain's way of practicing ceremonial magic, inducing the emotions, directing the thoughts, and manifesting change. So when we consciously redirect our thoughts and desires towards a higher purpose, we are engaging in this sacred work, rewiring not only our minds, but our very souls. This is the art of mastering the self, transforming our desires from unbridled passions into tools for spiritual growth. From the standpoint of magic, Scorpio embodies the principle of realization, revealed to us through Arcanium 4, the sovereign. Picture, if you will, the sacred moment when your spiritual work begins to ripen, when the seeds you have sown finally bear fruit. This is the moment of realization. It is not about bending the world to your will through force or compulsion. Rather, it's about harmonizing your desires with the internal laws of spiritual truth and allowing the universe to respond in kind. Now, let us take a deeper, as Zane says, nothing can resist a firm will, which has for a lever the knowledge of the true and just. That is part of the admission that goes with the realization with Scorpio. Now let's take a deeper drawing upon the wisdom of Eliphas Levi and the sacred patterns found within the tarot. The journey begins with the mages. That's the card of decision, where the will to act is conceived. In veiled Isis, that will is scrutinized, examined from every angle, ensuring it aligns with the highest truth. With Isis unveiled, action begins. The emotional energy is summoned, the forces of creation stirred, and the work is set into motion. And then it is the sovereign, Scorpio, where the culmination of this journey takes place. Here, desire and will converge in a single powerful moment of manifestation. But this is no mere sequence of symbols. It is a sacred formula for those who seek to understand. It reveals the process of exerting your force upon the world to bring about transformation. But heed the tarot's wise counsel. The next card after the sovereign is the Hierophant, symbolizing religion, law, cosmic order. Whatever you have wrought, whatever changes you have summoned into being, you must live with the consequences. For every act of magic, every realization of will directs your mood to align and dwell in that energy. And as a moment of confession, that lesson took me a couple of decades to learn. Now let us proceed with care, knowing that the power of Scorpio can elevate or ensnare, depending upon the wisdom with which it is wielded. Now, how do we empower our magic? From the teachings of Zane, we learned that Arcadium 4 reveals the principle of realization. This truth teaches us that once this energy is set in motion, it requires an expectant attitude, allowing the forces to coalesce and manifest that which is to be fulfilled. Zane continues, there must be confidence that the work is being performed and that gestation will result in proper fruition. Worry or anxiety as to results is fatal to development of that which is desired. Zane expounds upon the importance of using love in this by stating, there is no power which can lift the soul to such exalted states of ecstasy as love. And thus only through love can we of earth contact the higher spiritual states. It's in all spiritual traditions. Love is regarded as the most potent force of transformation. Lust, greed, and selfishness tear down our spiritual structures. But love, expressed through tenderness, kindness, and compassion, elevates and fortifies them. Scorpion, as a sovereign of desire, teaches us that when love governs our desires, we ascend. It is through love that our desires are purified and our will is aligned with the higher spiritual truths. The symbolism of the card speaks deeply to this principle. The helmet represents that force required to subdue the lower desires. The scepter of Isis, held in a sovereign's hand, symbolizes the wisdom to use your creative energy for spiritual purposes. And the downward hand signifies a subjugation of the physical in favor to the spiritual. Even the apron, presented on many tarot figures, reveal an ancient secret of how we store and direct these energies. But what does this mean for us in practical terms? Magic and ESP, as Zane emphasizes, wholly depend on desired energy to obtain results. It is the one thing that leads to consistency in your practices. Do you have the desired energy for that outcome? Our mantra is a guide to that, a reminder to rule over our physical desires, to elevate our emotions, and to nurture our spiritual path through love. Now, as far as the alchemy of Scorpio, it is about transforming through the mastery of desire and energy. In this sacred work, we ask ourselves, what energies are we seeking to manifest? The 9-point plan gives us a vital key to this transformation. Specifically, the transmutation of fear into freedom. Fear, whether it is fear of death, scarcity, or violence, binds us to the lower vibrational planes, keeping us tethered to the material world. And we can see how the modern techno magicians are using fear right now to bind humanity to this world. Yet Scorpio teaches us that through spiritual wisdom, we can free ourselves from these chains. When we grasp the truth that death is not an end, but a transformation, we loosen the grip of fear and we open the way for ascension. Zane so clearly tells us, fear restricts activities, impairs the health, and changes the attention to images which engender a dominant vibratory rate too low to permit contact with the higher inner plane levels. It thus not only hinders the development of spirituality, but it hinders clear thinking and most satisfactory intellectual process. Think about that. If the world is in a state of fear, it literally prevents the citizens from contacting the higher planes of spiritual truth. Knowledge of afterlife condition, Zane further states, knowledge of the afterlife should banish the fear of death. The economic condition of the world should be handled in such a way that abundance will banish the fear of want. And the proper organization and cooperation between nations should banish the fear of war and the atomic bomb. Because to make the most intellectual and spiritual progress, people must know about the afterlife conditions, must not be faced with the specter of want, and must not be compelled to sacrifice time, energy, or their lives to war. The cosmic alchemist works ardently to enable all the people of the world to have freedom from fear. Zane here does reflect his alchemist mission to work for the freedom of all people so that no one is bound by the fears of death, poverty, or violence. The true alchemist labors to transmute these fears, For as long as fear governs our lives, we are bound to the lower vibrational realms. Now, getting to the conclusion here, we talked a lot about the nature of desire, how to summon desire to the power of love in your magical workings and in your alchemical transformations to fuel the changes in those neural pathways, to rewire your physical and spiritual body to take on a higher vibrational power. And in doing that, each of us has a cosmic role in life. Zane talks about your cosmic job being separated from the job that pays the bills. For some lucky individuals, those may align. This is a divine task woven into the fabric of existence. But this role is not random. It is not something that's hard to find. It is written in the stars and inscribed upon your very soul. It is your sacred purpose within the grand design of the universe. And your desires, when aligned with spiritual truth, become the very tools which fulfill that purpose. Scorpio, the sign of transformation and willpower, reminds us that the mysteries not merely invite us to transform our desires, they command it. But how do we discover our cosmic job, this sacred duty, is far simpler than you might imagine. Look in your chart, find your most powerful sign and your most dominant planet. Does not matter whether these are harmonious or not. We're looking for where you have the most energy to make a change. It may not be an easy path, but it's the path you're called to. So what would that mean for myself? I am ruled by Mercury and my dominant sign is Gemini. What does that tell me about my cosmic role? The card associated with Mercury is the Magus. The card associated with Gemini is the Star. Card 1 is related to Course 1, Laws of Occultism. Card 17, the Star, is related to Course 17, Cosmic Alchemy. So you probably felt my passion when I was talking about Cosmic Alchemy. I am called to focus my attention on Course 1 and Course 17, however that may occur in my life. These are the areas that my energy finds its highest, maybe not easiest, highest expression, and where my cosmic job is revealed. The Magus representing the focused will to create, and the Star symbolizing the illumination of higher wisdom, both point me toward the cultivation of knowledge and the transmutation of self. And this is where I direct my energy. I'd ask you, what's your cosmic job? We talked about how you find it. Whether you're ruled by the sun, by Venus, by Mars, or Saturn, each planet, each sign carries a divine mission, a specific area of life that you are called to excel in and to contribute just not your own evolution, but the evolution of the whole. So in conclusion, remember, don't let your soul remain tethered to the earth. Let your desires soar like an eagle. Build your spiritual body on love, wisdom, and faith. Through the teachings of Scorpio, we learn that life is not just a material survival, it's about spiritual ascension. And I'll take a moment to read an affirmation that I created for Scorpio. I remain vigilant to moments when my desires sink to lower vibrations, and instead I stay loyal to my higher self, ruling these desires with kindness. I commit to the realization of my divine astral body, guiding me with passionate initiative to fulfill my cosmic job and contribute my utmost to universal welfare.